This is Weekly Woman by Jubilance for PMS. Laura, I kind of start off with some more like fun questions. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yes, so excited to have you on. Can you talk about your favorite show that you've binged during COVID?
Actually, I am binging The Sopranos right now because I've never watched it before. And it's kind of a classic HBO show, and I'm loving it. I'm really loving it. It's a great show.
Huh, I've never seen it. It's the like mafia-ish one, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's about a mob family in New Jersey, and it's just really well done. It's fascinating and fantastically addictive, and just I'm really glad that I've experienced this part of television history now.
Cool. I know there's so much to watch now in all of like the streaming services, but like I feel like I've exhausted all the new things because of
Yeah,
COVID. So maybe I
yeah,
have to go back and check that out.
yeah. I think going back in time can be really cool, and The Sopranos is worth it for sure.
Huh, that's awesome. Can you talk about a favorite story from a trip you've had?
I think that one of my favorite trips that I did recently was uh, I took a spontaneously, like 2 weeks before, this was in 2019, planned a birthday trip for one of my best friends to the Tulum area of Mexico.
Oh, cool.
And I had traveled a bit in Mexico before, but I hadn't been to the very famous, Cancun and Maya Riviera area of Mexico. So I took two friends with me and we went down, and one day we just went cenote hopping. And cenotes are those beautiful freshwater clear pools that they have because of the limestone that the earth is made of there. And they're just fantastic, and they have a lot of significance and history in Maya culture of Mexico. And we rented a car, so we just drove around all day and went to different cenotes to swim in, and it's just the first thing that comes to mind when I think of good memories from traveling.
Wow, that sounds so magical. They
Yeah,
just look like from another world.
yeah, yeah. I would love to scuba dive in cenotes one day.
Wow, I didn't know you could scuba dive in them.
Yeah, yeah. They have lots of people. Actually, one I went to, there were people diving in it while I was there. And there are some that have really interesting cave type formations, and then others that are just clear and have fish. And
Wow.
we went to one cenote that's inside a lake. So it's roped off because you can swim in the lake, and then at a certain point, there's just a giant,
Like
200
drop
foot
off?
crater drop off of a cenote.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah,
that's so fascinating.
yeah, they're
That
everywhere.
that would be so cool to dive in then.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have a scuba diving license?
I do not. I got certified to dive maybe about 10 years ago,
Wow.
actually while I was in college, and haven't been able to go again since, but I would really love to. I
Wow.
have to probably take classes and get recertified, but I
Oh,
did get certified once and dove in a lake in Virginia, but
wow, that's amazing.
that was it. So one day.
That's so crazy. Wow. Okay, so tell me about your dream day from start to finish. What would it be like after COVID?
After COVID, dream day would be again like a traveling day. My dream day is when I'm on a trip and I start the day off ready to go. I leave the house or the Airbnb wherever I am, go get some coffee and a meal, go to a museum or some kind of natural wonder of the area or ancient ruins or whatever it may be. Meet people along the way, have a full day, take a nap, wake up for dinner, and then go dancing all night, and
Wow,
just kind of absorb the culture. I'm
that's
that
ideal.
yeah, that would be a dream day.
Yeah, I am definitely an introvert by nature, but I find myself thinking like now that we're in like social distance times, like, oh my God, how relaxing would that be to like go dancing and clubbing
Right,
with lots of people?
right,
But
right,
never in my life would I do that otherwise. But
right. I tend to get some kind of like superhuman energy when I'm traveling, where at home I may, skip the dancing to go stay home and watch Sopranos. But yeah, there's something about being able to be immersed in a different culture, a different environment that gives me a lot of energy.
Wow. Oh, I can't wait for us to be able to travel again after
No,
all this. Where would you go? Where's the first place you'll go?
I think the first place I would go is actually just to visit family, either in California or Colorado. So
Oh, cool.
nothing outside of the country immediately. But I haven't been on any planes since the pandemic started. So I think I would just get a ticket for a quick trip somewhere in the country to either visit friends or family.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be really nice.
yeah.
And can
Yeah.
you talk about a little bit about where you're living now?
Yes, so I'm living in Washington, D.C. I'm originally from Arlington, Virginia, which is about 20 minutes away. It's just across the Potomac River from D.C. And I live in an awesome neighborhood called Columbia Heights. I live in a 4-bedroom apartment, pretty big apartment, but there's 4 of us, four women. And it is just a fantastic area. It's close to the National Zoo. It's close to our metro lines. It's close to tons of bars and restaurants, and it's also historically um, Latino and Black neighborhood. So I feel really lucky and really privileged to be able to share the space with the origins of this neighborhood. And I love being involved with this community to try to help keep those origins alive as much as possible. We have pretty active civic engagement overall in DC. People are pretty politically aware of what's going on within their neighborhoods, within their wards, which is how the city is divided up into 8 wards. So people are very empathetic, aware, active here. So it feels good to be sharing space in a neighborhood with people who really care about the history and the future of the neighborhood.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, I remember visiting Columbia Heights, and it was always great to visit, and just like all the architecture too, all that older architecture. There's I don't know if you've been I mean, now it's a pandemic, so it's probably not open, but there's a wonderful Spanish language theater that's also across from that Target Gala theater.
Yes,
Have
I
you been
have
there?
been. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
I
It was really
love
cool.
that place. And like I don't speak Spanish at all, but just having that like that there is that theater space for like that community. And I saw like an old like play from Spain like around Shakespeare's time, I remember I saw, and like they had subtitles so like everyone could engage with it. But just the
Great.
idea was so cool.
Yeah, that's still there. Yeah, it's
Oh, that's
awesome. I
awesome.
have been, I think, once. I'm not sure if I've been more than once,
Oh,
but
cool.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great place. My apartment too is a 1912 row house that has 4 units in it. And it's just really, it's got so much charm and character, and it's just like lovely to live in an old building like that, and be surrounded by beautiful architecture. Whenever I go on
Oh,
a walk, it's just fantastic. I can see so much that I've never even seen, even living here for a few years.
that's so cool. I mean, like just behind you, is that a fireplace?
Yeah, that's a fireplace with a mirror.
Oh
It
my
doesn't
God.
work. Unfortunately, they don't really have fireplaces going at too many of these old buildings in DC, but it is
But it's
beautiful.
beautiful. Those
Yeah,
pillars. Oh my God.
yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah. And what is your favorite part about Washington?
My favorite part about Washington is probably more of what I mentioned before, of just like the overall culture of people being pretty just the opposite of apathetic about what's going on in the world, and striving for a better city. I think it's really cool to live in a place where there are so many intelligent and diverse types of people. Um, it's an international city, so there is so much amazing culture to learn about and absorb. And also, I love DC because I'm from really close by. I'm from Arlington, which used to be part of DC back in
Oh,
its
really?
history. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Before it
Huh.
was became part of the Commonwealth. And I have a lot of friends and family here. So it's been fantastic to be in a new place, new as in I hadn't lived here in DC proper before 3 years ago, but not new like if I had gone to a city with no connections. So I think that's also a really wonderful thing, a wonderful experience for a young person. But having moved to a city where I already knew people and had family was really cool, and I love that.
Wow. Yeah, that is amazing. And that's good that everything is so close by. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I love DC too because it's so walkable. Like you can walk
yes,
like the whole city in like 30 minutes maybe, or
yeah,
like across,
yeah.
which is great. New York is not like that, but
Very walkable, bikeable. Before the pandemic, I rode the train or the bus everywhere because it has its issues, our metro system, but it is a pretty fantastic way to get around. I love having a train.
it's so
When
clean. I'm like so
it's
shocked every time
pretty,
I go. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't smell like there's
yeah.
nothing on the floor. Like New York is so gross. But
Yeah, and that's another thing I love about New York is the subway and being able to get anywhere you want to go. So the fact that a city like DC has something similar is really fantastic, and I really hope that Metro can survive this pandemic because
yeah.
unfortunately the ridership is way down, understandably, and I've barely gone on the train at all. But that is a thing that I really appreciate about DC is the public transportation for sure.
Mm. Oh, that's great.
Uh,
And Laura, can you tell me a little bit about your story? What are you up to in DC?
That's a great question. So I was prior to living in DC working with a wonderful Richmond, Virginia based nonprofit that also works directly out of Guatemala. So I was living in Guatemala for a year and a half working
That's
for a
so
nonprofit.
cool.
And I left after a year and a half down there and came back. And as soon as I came back, I recognized that I had a lot of skills and a lot of interest related to assisting the Spanish-speaking immigrant population in the DMV, as we call it, District, Maryland, Virginia. So just sort of like this major region. And I got a job working at an immigration legal services nonprofit that
Oh,
provided free legal and social services and language access services to vulnerable immigrants in the area. And I worked there for 3.5 years. But unfortunately, at the end of last year, I had to be let go because of the pandemic. So,
man.
luckily for me, though, I'm eligible for unemployment and I am stable economically. So, I've really been able to take this time to, first of all, I took a little break last year.
Good.
Burnout was super
That's
real.
so real.
I took a month or two completely off and just enjoyed my time off. And now I've been doing the full-time job that is applying to jobs, and
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get something soon. But until then, I'm been able to comfortably live without employment. I mean, it is nerve-wracking, and I would like to be gainfully employed again, but I have been able to make it work and have been comfortable and happy during this time. So
Good.
that's what I'm up to, is a lot of
Yeah.
self-care, a lot of time to
Good.
myself, a lot of like job searching, reaching out to people. I really can't complain. With the conditions that some people in this world are living in, I really have no complaints about my situation. So,
Yeah.
yeah, doing well.
It's tough. So many nonprofits have taken a hit. I'm a
Yeah.
theater director in my
Oh, cool.
my real life.
That's
um,
awesome.
yeah, that's like my night job, or it was, but now like doesn't exist. And nonprofits have taken such a hit in their funding, and like
Yeah.
arts organizations and
Yeah.
charities, and it's
Yeah.
really tough right now.
Stuff. I actually did 4 years of theater in high school,
Really?
so
Oh, wow.
yeah, I'm
As,
really excited to hear
as
that
an
your theater.
actor or?
Yeah, I was doing acting. Yeah,
Oh my,
um,
that's awesome.
yeah, it's something I'd really like to get back into as well. I've emailed my theater teacher from high school before because she also teaches adult classes, and I really want to go to back to class with her.
That would be so
Um,
cool. Why
yeah,
not?
yeah,
Do it during this time. Or even
yeah,
like maybe you could help with gala
yeah.
with your Spanish language knowledge.
Right,
Find
right.
new interests.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of volunteering. I during my time coming back from Guatemala and before I got my job with the nonprofit I was working at, I was volunteering at least 30 hours a week
That's amazing.
or 20 or 30 hours a week. So I was really excited about all of the volunteer opportunities around here during that time. And unfortunately, a lot of them have been sort of eliminated or
Oh,
moved to online only.
that makes
And so I
sense.
haven't been able to pick up too much volunteer work. I did a little bit of volunteering with some mutual aid efforts in DC during
Oh,
the pandemic,
cool.
but I would love to get back more involved in something that I can use my time to help people with. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wait, tell me more about Guatemala. That's incredible. Like, where
yeah,
were you? What were you doing?
it was incredible, and I miss it a lot. I really, really would love to live there again, or at least visit for a while and see all of my friends.
Wow.
I originally went to Guatemala in 2013 on a volunteer trip.
Huh.
I had graduated college in 2012 and saw a sign in a coffee shop for a Maya art and anthropology trip, and I
Cool.
studied anthropology at my university. So,
Wow.
and I loved um, Central South American ancient culture. So I was really intrigued, and I signed up to go. And the trip was amazing. It was a volunteer trip where we built smokeless stoves for indigenous families that cook over open fire. So the donation that our trip gave to the nonprofit was to purchase the supplies and pay the masons to help us build these cement stoves with chimneys to help people funnel the smoke out of their homes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that's one of, they do many other things, but that's one of the main things you do as a volunteer. And while I was down there, I decided that I had studied French my whole life, but I studied that I decided that I wanted to study Spanish.
Wow.
Once I got there, I realized like, okay, this is it. I need to learn Spanish. And after a week, I canceled my flight home and I stayed for another month and went to Spanish immersion school and then came back to the States and then was living at home with my parents in Arlington and working. And then about a year and a half later, I after much pestering, I made the nonprofit that I volunteered with give me, like, accept me. They were like, well, we don't know if we can pay you for work, but you can come down and volunteer with us. And so I went down there not knowing how long I would be there. And I had saved up a bunch of money working and living at home to be able to do that. And so
Wow.
I volunteered with them for a couple months and then they ended up hiring me. And so
That's
I lived down there,
incredible.
worked for them. Yeah.
Wow. What a story. And just like totally immersing yourself in Spanish from French. That is amazing.
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think I was 23 when I started learning Spanish. So I think I was young enough for it to really cement in my brain in a real way. So I consider myself fluent in Spanish.
Wow.
Um, I'm not as good at, my vocabulary is a little less than it was when I was living there, but um, it's an incredible thing, that an incredible language and something I love so much and a skill I'm so glad I have, or a part of my brain that can 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 converse and think in Spanish
Yeah.
um, that I just don't think would have happened if I hadn't done the immersion. I think
That's
that was really the way to do it.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, that
Wow.
was great. Hopefully I'll be back there one day. I miss it a lot.
Yeah. Ready after the pandemic to
Yeah,
welcome you back.
yeah, yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about finding Jubilance? How did you find out about it?
Yeah. I started seeing Jubilance on I think my Facebook. I started seeing
Okay.
ads. And so, the first time you see ads, you kind of just scroll by and you're like, okay. And then I saw it a few times. And then eventually I was like, okay, what is this exactly? Because I had been aware of um, I had been aware that I had PMDD since 2014. And so I have been experimenting with all sorts of ways to manage it since then. And so when I saw something that said it helped with PMS relief, I decided to Google it and learn more after seeing those ads a few times.
Oh, that's awesome. And can you talk a little bit about like how is it making you feel?
It's really incredible how it is assisting with the PMDD. It almost feels like it's putting a soft blanket over it or something. Like if I could use very poetic imagery, it's like, you know, it is for me, should I talk about a little bit more about my experience with
Yeah,
PMD and
that would be
PMDD
great.
and how jubilance,
Yeah.
I've been calling it jubilance, but I think that's wrong.
Yeah,
Is it
it's like jubilance, like we're so
jubilance?
happy. Like
Jubilance, yeah. Yeah. Um, so I was seeing a therapist in 2014 that asked me to start journaling about my feelings during the month, just sort of monitoring. And after about 3 months, she suggested to me that I might have PMDD. And
Oh,
I'd never heard of it before. I didn't know what that was. I didn't realize that my emotions and my capacity to handle stress and my levels of depression and anxiety were going up and down throughout the month. I didn't really see a pattern there, but it was actually a therapist of mine that pointed out a pattern.
hmm.
And so that was really when it all started for me. I started realizing that my entire outlook on myself and the world changes every month. And sometimes it could be for 1 week leading up to the end of the cycle, could be 2 weeks,
Oh,
or sometimes I think I've even experienced it for more
oh,
than that.
God.
Yeah, so very severe levels of um, changing response to emotions and stressors. And so over the years, I have done different types of birth control to see if that helped. I did some of my own research and found out that um, a lot of doctors will recommend supplementing with calcium, and that can help
Oh,
people a lot for reasons I'm not quite sure about. And yeah, apparently calcium can also help people, but I had tried other supplements like that, vitamin B6, calcium that had been recommended to me by various scientific research, and it didn't seem to help with those emotional swings throughout the month. So I've been struggling a lot with um, sort of like when the second half of the month comes around, like at some point a dark cloud just comes over my world where I start to feel like a different outlook. I start to have more negative thoughts about myself and the people in my life. I start feeling highly triggered to stress, like things that aren't that stressful will all of a sudden just feel devastating. And in previous years of my life, it's led me to feel incredibly unstable, to the point where I wasn't sure um, if I needed to go on medication for any depressant, if I had some other kind of disorder like bipolar. Um, I have had suicidal thoughts before. So,
Gosh.
and then once the period comes, those things all go away and I go back to normal. So it's what's the worst thing is that up and down, and feeling normal sometimes and totally not yourself other times. And my experience with Jubilance has been that those negative emotions and the intensity of those negative emotions is drastically reduced to a point that is manageable. They don't overwhelm me like a wave. I feel like if I feel something, I have the space between me and that feeling to not let it take over, to not react to it, to just feel it and have that have more capacity to allow feelings during my cycle to happen in a way that isn't just overwhelming and kind of destructive to one's mental health.
Good. Oh, Laura, I'm so glad then that Jubilance can help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to feel those emotions, that roller coaster that happens every month.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that it can help.
Yeah, it really has helped. I have noticed a huge difference in my mental state. Um,
Great.
I was never expecting to eliminate PMS whatsoever, and I also don't really think that. I think after all these years of having a period, I can handle a little bit of PMS, but it's the excessive, just unbelievably emotional states and depressive episodes that are debilitating to a woman's life and that are destructive to partnerships and to productivity in life and at work. Um and I don't think that women need to be, emotionless like slabs of cardboard in order to get by, but it's not fair to have to feel that bad all the time
Every
when
month.
normally. Yeah.
Every month.
Yeah.
Why is this a thing? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You deserve
It's
to feel better.
yes.
Oh,
Yes, you deserve to be able to handle it and in your own way, and to be able to know that you can overcome it, and that you can, you may not be feeling perfect or tip top, but you're not afraid of what you might do or feel. So that is a huge thing that I think all women should have that are suffering from this. And I honestly think that women in my life that I've talked to might have issues with PMS that they don't even realize, since it's such an understudied issue. And
it's such a
there's
taboo topic to
yeah,
even talk about, which is horrifying because we experience it every month.
yeah,
Like half the population experiences it at some
right,
point.
right,
It's crazy.
yeah. And I just don't know how many people in my life are aware that some of their emotional swings and depression and anxiety could be more related than they think to an abnormally long PMS cycle. Or even, let's say, if you don't have PMDD and you just have really bad PMS for 5 days before your period, that still would be worth it to not have, because if it's that bad, then those 5 days you just don't even know what could happen to you. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Laura.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And something that I always ask on the podcast is, what is your definition of womanhood?
That's a really interesting question, and it's hard to say because as I've gotten older, for all the people that are aware of contemporary gender conversations, I identify as a cisgender heterosexual woman. So that is a really interesting position to be in, because I realize that not everyone has my idea of womanhood. And as I've grown older, I've recognized a lot of different ideas of womanhood than what I thought were real growing up. And I've opened my mind and my heart to accepting other versions over time that I wasn't aware of or haven't experienced. And this could be through friends, reading, television, internet forums, everything. Just people in my life, I really listen to them. So I think womanhood is really hard to define, because I think most people would define it as biological. and I'm not sure I know anymore what it is. I think womanhood is when a person feels in touch with their femininity or they identify as feminine. And if
Great.
you are a person with different biology than me and you identify as feminine, then I believe you, because I think it's a really powerful thing to identify as. And anyone who feels like their femininity is their most precious resource, or their or big part of their identity, to me is a woman. And I think womanhood is helping others accept their feminine side and feminine nature, in everyone around them. I think womanhood is the strength to be able to do that, to help people understand just the feminine side of life. So I hope that made sense.
Yeah, I think that's really lovely. I love what you were saying about like the strength to help other people accept like anyone's femininity.
Mhm,
Um,
exactly.
I
That
always
is
think of
good
like
to me.
Lizzo's like, if you feel like a girl, then you're real like a girl.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. She knows what she's talking about. Yes, the voice, of a younger generation and how we are seeing gender, and we don't really look at it. Most of us, I guess, don't really look at it the way it was seen in the 50s of what womanhood was then. So it's fascinating to see it grow and change and see more people open up conversations about what is womanhood, what is femininity, what is being a woman or feminine. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I've been learning a lot over the past, you know, decade or more about this.
Well,
So that my definition is still evolving.
yeah, and I think that's what's so interesting about it is that everyone has this different definition,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I think it changes like second by second.
Right. Right.
It'll be different in a couple days or so.
Right. Yeah.
Laura, is there anything else you'd like to add to our listeners today?
I think the only other thing I'd like to add is, if you are feeling like PMS has taken over your life even one time, it would be worth trying Jubilance. And I think it really has the potential to to put you on a different path and let you enjoy life in a different way, because you won't be as afraid or as overwhelmed or beaten down by PMS. I am all about access to reproductive rights, birth control, and I feel like this is maybe the next step in that, is sort of like allowing women to um, experience the benefits of science. I think science is a little bit behind, maybe not a little bit, a lot of it behind in a lot of ways with issues that pertain to women. And
Mm.
I think that this is an exciting new era of how science can help women gain better control over their bodies. Maybe not control, but allow them to have more agency in their choices. Mental health is extremely important, and it's incredibly challenging right now to maintain stable mental health with everything going on. And then if you have PMS or PMDD on top of that, it's really challenging. And I think women should really have the opportunity to be able to get beyond it, just like we did with being able to choose whether or not we have children, or whether or not we want to get pregnant. I think being able to choose a way to have better mental health related to our bodies and our cycles is the next step that we're working towards. So why not be one of the first people experiencing that? I feel like I am one of, I don't know anyone else in my personal life, but I'm definitely going to recommend it to people. And so I want to recommend it to anyone else who's thinking about trying it, to see if it helps, because it's great.
Yay! Oops. Thank you so much, Laura. It was
You're
so nice to
welcome.
get to talk to you.